Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. Today, I am interviewing someone who volunteers her own time to help with building houses in New Orleans in the past. And I wanted to talk to Co because I wanted to know that came to be and how did that experience change your life? And I'm going to have to let the dog in that's now freaking out by me. So, welcome, Co, to another episode of What Has Changed Your Life.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, tell me
Um,
how that started with your volunteering to go down to New Orleans.
so the interesting thing is I had never really thought about New Orleans up until maybe about 6 months before Hurricane Katrina. And suddenly, out of the
Right.
blue, it popped in my head that one day I might want to go to New Orleans. And I like to research everything. So I started to kind of read a little bit about New Orleans, but didn't really know much at all other than there was like great antique shops and restaurants.
Yeah.
And so at that point, August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina, 80% of the city. And for the first time in my life, I was so obsessed with everything that was happening in New Orleans. I was watching all the news and like any information I could get my hands on. And I don't really watch the news. Never have, never really have
Mm-hmm.
since, but I could not stop. I felt so connected to that city. Seeing everyone on their rooftops waiting to be rescued, like literally just ripped my heart out. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I don't know what I can do, but I have to do something to help these people. I have to do something
Yeah.
to help the city. And so I literally went for the next, I don't know, 6 months or almost a year, trying to think of like, what could I do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the city, I didn't know anybody there. How could I help?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the following July, so almost a year later, one of my friends ended up going on a youth missions trip. And she was like, I'm going to New
Oh, yeah.
Orleans. So I'm going to go, I'm going to check it all out. And then when I come back, we'll meet and talk about how maybe we could do this and lead a group down there. So
Right.
she came back and we sat down and talked about it. And we were like, let's do this. So a year after that, we had our first trip organized to go down
Sorry,
with the
the
youth.
dog in the background
Yeah.
trying to get away from them.
We
They're
organized
following
a
me.
trip to take the youth down to at our church to go do whatever we could to help. And that led to a couple of
Mm-hmm.
days of building houses. And actually, we weren't building them; we were still gutting them at that stage. And so I had a little bit of
Oh,
experience with that. And we had some adults from our church that wanted to go down. So I had to set up a trip just for them at the same time. That's how I found
right.
out that there was nonprofits just specifically there to help rebuild the city. And so the next year we took a group of 20 adults down just to do an adult trip, and we volunteered with St. Bernard Project. And I've been volunteering with them basically ever since and going
So
down.
if your friend hadn't found this out, then how hard would it have been to figure out how to go down there and help out at the time? Because I know when it happened, a bunch of us, because I'm in healthcare, we were thinking we would go down and help, but we couldn't figure out how to do it. So, how did your
Yeah.
friend figure it out?
So she got invited with another church, and they went through an organization called, I've forgotten the name, YouthWorks. And so YouthWorks
Youth
did
work.
a bunch of different things for youth, and kind of like you would pay them X amount of money per kid or per person, and they would set up your
Mm-hmm.
food, your work projects, and everything. So probably 50% of our week was spent rebuilding. But we didn't
Right.
work with any agencies directly. We worked through YouthWorks. And then I was like, well, there's got to be a way to just go down and just do the
Yeah.
rebuilding. And so when
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
started looking, we basically just were, I love to research. I will research anything, anything I'm interested in. I'm all over it. And I'd spent a year looking at stuff but hadn't succeeded. But then when we kind of knew what to look for and what to search for, that's when we actually went with the obvious one of Habitat for Humanity first. But then I wasn't
Right.
super happy with how that turned out for our adults on the trip. So I actually at that point was like, well, they can't be the only agency for a city that was flooded by 80%. Like that can't be the only agency that's actually rebuilding stuff. So that's when I started Googling and found about 4 or 5 other nonprofits. And I've worked with a couple of different ones just to kind of test it all out. But
Right.
St. Bernard Project was the one that just really resonated with me. So we stuck with them right till now. So
Right from the word go. And do
yeah,
you have any experience with building?
no, I am like such a princess. I don't like to do any of that stuff. But for some reason, when you're in a different place, out of your comfort zone, and doing something totally different, it's just such a thrill. And
Mm-hmm.
so we kind of, and it's transitioned over the years. Like a lot of the times we were gutting houses or ripping them apart in the first couple of years. Then it started to be more where we were doing all this rebuilding and constructing, and using power tools is not my thing. It is now. I'm not super cool about it like all of them, but like I'll pick up a nail gun, or still a little nervous around saws. But I can patch up a wall and tape a seam and and paint like nobody's business now. And my brother-in-law jokes because back in 2009, I won an award where I worked through Build-A-Bear Workshop for the volunteer work I do in New Orleans, and they wanted to see me doing some of the stuff, so they gave me a little camera, and I took
Yeah.
it down there and did a little demonstration of how to like patch up a wall or mud a wall, and he was like, "You can actually do that for real. You're pretty good at that."
Yes, for real. Those are handy skills to have.
Well, they are. And I do joke that if I ever needed a different job to fall back on, I could maybe go into like renovation work or something like that. Because I've done it all. Like I've
Exactly.
installed shelves into closets. I've
Yeah.
measured out kickboards. I even one of my favorite stories actually is kind of learning persistence and leadership through this. And I took a couple of friends down from work a few years ago, and you never know whatever week you sign up with, you don't know
Yep.
what house you're going to be working on, what stage it's
Right.
at. So it's fully just, all right, I'm here, use me.
Yeah.
And
Use
we
me as
got
you need.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you need, I will figure it out. And for the third time, I was sent to a place where they were doing laminate flooring. Laminate flooring was not my thing. I tried it twice already, given it a good shot, ended up doing all the other projects in the house because I just couldn't figure it out. But for some reason, the way this particular site project or site manager explained it, it clicked, and I was able to figure it out. Not only that, I was the only one who was
Nice.
able to get the wood cut for a really crazy corner on one of those old fireplaces that had been built out like 2 or 3 levels, and it had all these crazy
Right.
corners, and I was the only one who was able to actually get that corner right. And I had said to
Nice.
myself, well, I'm here with volunteers, I'm the leader, I can't be like, oh, I don't do this, I've got to just figure it out. And I did. And it
Exactly.
shows if you give it a shot and just go in with your best attitude, you can get it done.
Yep. And the other thing too is in order to figure these things out, you actually have to do it. It's not
Yeah.
something you can, you know what I mean? I mean, you can YouTube it, but you actually have to physically do it. And
Yeah.
the persistence and doing it is, those are so rewarding. And sometimes it's not going to be perfect the first time you do it, but you tried. That's how you grow, right? That's how you
Yeah.
move forward and learn new things. You just do it. And I think it's really important for women to know that they can do those types of things. It's
Yeah.
not a guy job, it's an anybody job,
I had one
right?
friend that came down. Yeah, one friend that came with me one year, Amy, and we were doing. They were doing a 24-hour build to bring recognition to the 5th anniversary of Katrina. And this girl I brought with me, she's like, "Well, I don't really do this kind of stuff. I'll give it a shot. This sounds really cool. I love New Orleans. I want to do this." And so we went
Mm-hmm.
on our 8-hour shift for the 24-hour build. So we were there from 4 to midnight. And we got to the
Wow.
part where I needed to hand her the nail gun to do the door frames of the house. And she was like,
Right.
"Oh, no, no, no." And I said, "Amy, you came all this way to get out of your comfort zone. I'm going to ask you one
Yeah.
more time and strongly suggest you just try it once. If you don't like it, I'm
Yes.
not going to make you do it, but just please, you came all this way, just try it." Well,
Just try it. Yeah.
when we left at midnight, we had to pry the gun out of her hands. She was not going to let go of that nail
I
gun.
love it.
She wanted to stay for another 4 hours and finish the rest of the house. And then she was so proud of herself. And I was just like, "See, this is what you came
Yes.
for."
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally what they came for. Exactly. Exactly. So tell me about the culture. You immersed yourself in the culture in New Orleans. What are some things that are unique to the people that live in New Orleans?
There is so much about the city. There's lots of sayings, things like, you don't in New Orleans, you don't come to see the city, you come to experience the culture. Some of us find that when we land in New
Mhm.
Orleans, we kind of feel more at home. And I have always, since finding New Orleans, felt more at home there than here in Vancouver. And I mean, the
Mhm.
first thing I love is music. While we were researching and doing fundraising projects for New Orleans, we did a big coffee house and we had jazz music involved. And I hadn't really had much to do with jazz music at that point, but I am an absolute Louis Armstrong fan now. And the food, it's very different. I love
Mhm.
all the food in New Orleans, the spices. And one of the things that really impressed me was just how um, hospitable the city is. Like, whether you're in a store or a
Mhm.
restaurant or passing people on the street, they'll talk to you, they'll stop and talk to you, they'll invite you to their house. A big thing there is sitting on the front porch and spending time with your family, and whoever walks by just stops for, a drink or a beer or a water, or hangs out for a bit. And they
Mhm.
have this, it's a lost art of um living in the moment. I really learned and embraced this whole living in the moment from New Orleans, and just really appreciating the people around you and what's going on right then. Like, sometimes you just need to stop worrying about tomorrow, tonight, next week, and just enjoy the people, the company you're with, and just be there present. And there's nothing better
Mhm.
than sitting on somebody's front porch with some great food, good drinks. You can hear the streetcars rolling by. Then maybe down the street, somebody's practicing their trumpet, and there's a couple of porches over, there's people out on their front porch, and just a very um, social. Nobody worries about who
Mhm.
you are. Like here in Vancouver and a lot of places, when we meet someone new, we're like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" And not everybody does something for work that relates to who they are. Some people just have jobs. And in New Orleans, it's a very poor city. And a lot of times people just have jobs for survival. It has nothing to do with who they are. And it took years before my friends from New Orleans were suddenly like, wait a second, what do you do for work? And then I can be like, oh, well, here's where I work, here's what I do. But they want to know who you are. What do you love to do? What are your hobbies? What's your family like? Do you spend a lot of time with your family? And so it's just a very different culture all around from anything I experienced or grew up here in Vancouver. So very friendly.
Yes. I love how you were talking about being present and learning how to be present in the moment. And I think that's so important. People we're all so busy here. I know where I am, we're all just so busy, and it's hard to be present in the moment and do in the moment. Do you find that?
Absolutely. You get so caught up in everything you need to do that you just forget all about just enjoying where you're at, your gratitude for today. You woke up this morning, you have food on the table, your needs are all taken care of, you have family around you, and we need to spend so much more time just living in the moment. And I've even got to the point where I forget to take pictures when I'm doing things because I'm trying to be so present that I don't want anything to distract me. So I've had a lot of events in my life where I've forgotten to record it and with pictures because I'm just so busy living in the moment and appreciating that moment. I mean, I don't do it all the time, but I would say I definitely practice it a lot more since getting involved with New Orleans.
Sorry, I'm losing your connection.
Oh,
Okay, let's see. Are we back?
yeah, I think we
I
are.
lost you a bit there, Co.
Okay.
Co's frozen on my end. I don't know if she's
Oh,
frozen on
that's
your
weird.
end.
I've
So if you're
seen no
watching, let me know in the
comment.
comments if she's frozen or I'm frozen. Because I don't know which one. I know my internet's not great today, but so let me know in the comments if you're watching who's frozen. We'll see whose internet so we can work on it and continue this fantastic conversation about volunteering in New Orleans and all the wonderful lessons that Co learned when she went down there in New Orleans. I think maybe she's back. Are you back, Co? Yay! I can see your head
I think
nodding
so.
now. Yay!
Yeah. Because sometimes it looks like it's
Oh, the
staggered on
internet's
your
still
end.
on.
So I'm not sure which.
Nita says it's
Yeah.
me. Nita says it's me. So let
Okay.
me thank you, Nita, for that. I am going to hang on. I'm going to try something to see if that helps us. Okay. Is that better? Code, can you see me or am I frozen?
Yeah, no, I can see you. Yeah.
You can see me?
Yeah.
Okay. It might be because the weather up here where I am is not great, so I'm wondering if it's affecting
Uh,
my data, unfortunately. Let me try the Wi-Fi again
okay.
and see if that helps. I will go black and I will come back.
Okay.
All right, let's see if that works.
There we go.
Yay! Hallelujah. See, the Wi-Fi didn't work earlier, but now it's working. So we're going to go with it. So I'm back in the house.
Sure.
So, so aside from the food and learning about the culture, what are some of the biggest lessons you learned from volunteering down in New Orleans to help rebuild that community?
Um, I don't know how to say it as a lesson up front, but let me share one of the stories about one of the houses I worked on. Every time you work on a different house, you're working on a different family's house. And often,
Mm-hmm.
often you get the chance to meet them briefly at some point. Sometimes it's towards the end of the week. Sometimes we're at different houses all week, so we don't never have a chance to meet them at all. But back in the beginning, I remember we were at
Mm-hmm.
this one house and we were doing a few different stages, and this lady pulled up in the front of the house in her car,
Mm-hmm.
and she got out and she fell to her knees and she was crying. And I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? So a couple of us went out to the front. We said, ma'am, are you okay? Like, do you need some assistance? Is there something we can do to help you right now? And she
Mm-hmm.
said, I just I just was driving by my house to check on it, make sure it was okay, and I was told there wouldn't be volunteers here for 3 months. They didn't have enough volunteers for 3
Mm.
months to help her house. And she said all of a sudden there's these people here in my house
What?
fixing
Yeah,
it. And
what's
she
going
said,
on?
I don't understand. They didn't tell me. And I said, oh, I said, come on in. We're from Vancouver. And she's like, Vancouver, what? And I said, yeah, like, the west coast of Canada. She's like, you're here? I said, we came on vacation to fix your house. Yeah, we're here. And she just started to cry even more. And she's just like, you don't understand. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be home for Christmas next year, but now you guys are here. I had a schedule having volunteers, and maybe, just maybe, I'll have the chance to be home for Christmas this year. And that would have marked the third Christmas since
Mm.
Hurricane Katrina. And I was dumbfounded. I'm like, I had never thought about it from the homeowner's perspective. They've been away from their house for 3 years. They lost everything. Now they're away. They're not near their families, their friends. And I was just like, I can't even imagine what it would
Mm.
be like to be homeless for 3 years when you own a property, but you just can't be there because you don't have the money to fix it. Because, I mean, that's a whole political issue with all the insurance and fraud and things
That's
like that.
awesome.
But I was just like, I've made it. My little week here in New Orleans has made this huge impact on an entire family's life. And it's always kind of
Mm.
stuck with me. And I'm always grateful to have a chance to meet the homeowners because they all come from a different background. They all have a different story. And you learn things like I work in customer service, and I believe you
Mm-hmm.
can never learn enough
Yes.
about how to treat your customers and your guests. And that is one thing I've learned through New
Mm-hmm.
Orleans, is just really remembering that the person in front of you has their own story and they're going through their own things, and just to really reach out and do what you can to make their life better, even if it's for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or
Yeah.
5 hours. And we had another family, the Ewans, who there was a whole story. They had a double shotgun house. The parents were on one side. They'd been displaced to Houston. They came back. They'd had a business across the street. The house was never able to be fixed. It got flattened. And he went up to Houston, met a lady, they got married, and then he moved her back to New Orleans to his family home, and we were fixing this up for him. And you know that they came in on the Wednesday, the mom with the 3 kids, because the dad was working, and she brought the 3 kids in, and they were all under 5, and she wanted them to
Yeah.
meet all the volunteers so they
Oh,
would
that's beautiful.
understand how many people it took for their house to get fixed. And they
Oh.
brought in homemade, freshly squeezed lemonade. She said, well, we don't have much, but I just
Mm.
thought we could bring you some lemonade because it's hot outside. And it was August and it was hot.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
just
It's
touched
hot New
me.
Orleans.
Yeah, that this lady who has 3 little kids to look after took the time to engage the kids, to make the lemonade, to bring for all the volunteers at the house. Not only that, she walked around and was like, you must be Co. You live in Vancouver. Thank you for coming. And she knew where everyone was from and introduced
Wow.
them to the kids. And I just thought, wow, is that ever amazing? That somebody is
Yes.
so grateful, but also wants to teach their kids this whole concept of like understanding appreciation for their house. I mean, it's truly, truly
Yes.
amazing. Just all the
Oh,
different
so powerful.
things. Like,
So
I
powerful.
actually got August 29th,
Yeah.
2005 tattooed on my wrist because I believe that is the day my life changed. I believe I still would have been a great person. I was a basketball coach. I did all kinds of different things. I coached basketball as a way of empowering girls through sport. And I would have been on a great track, but finding New Orleans it brought everything. I actually got a tattoo on my back that has faith, hope, love, and dream in it.
Yes.
And those are all 4 things that I learned through volunteering in New Orleans in those
Wow.
first couple of years. And it took us, we had 19 of us that went that first trip. We fundraised, I think, $28,000 to go. And we had our plan all
Wow.
laid out. Like, we took a business plan and said, this is what we want to do. He let us lead the whole trip. We had all the
Yep.
fun money we needed, house to rent in, all
Yep.
this stuff. And so we went in like ready to go with this trip. And I was like, we got to raise $28,000. Like, this is crazy. I
Yes.
hope we can do this. And our friends and family and
Yeah.
church congregation were donating money. They were part of all our fundraisers. And I was just so grateful. It deepened my faith, knowing, just seeing all these people. We even had a little kid who was 10 years old, and he donated his allowance that week at church to help our trip. And I'm like, the whole church family was so
Oh.
involved that even the kids were offering their allowance and wanting to be part of our experience. And just the love that I felt from that. And then love was not a word I used
That's
lightly
beautiful.
forever before New Orleans. And we were on the trip, and I was hanging out with one of the youth, and she actually was a basketball referee for the
Yep.
league that I worked in. And we were sitting there talking, and I turned to her and I said, oh, Anna, I said, you're great. I just love you. And I stopped, and I was like, I just said that word out loud? Where did that come from? And I truly learned to just love people and step out of myself and become vulnerable and let people know that I sincerely appreciated who they were for who they are. So, I mean, lessons and lessons and lessons have come out of this experience for me. Like, it's crazy how much I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it every single day. I'm so grateful for getting involved with the city.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. That's
just,
awesome. That is so
yeah.
powerful. So powerful. Yes. That's fantastic. I love it. Oh, I think I'm gone again.
I can still see you on my end.
That's awesome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Oh. Oh.
There's a bit of interference on the.
Okay, because I'm like, mine is a bit shaky on this end. Sorry, I'm having
Okay.
such trouble with the connection, but I can hear you. I just don't know if
Okay.
you can see me. But those are all so powerful, powerful lessons that you've
Absolutely.
learned. And it's, I hope, oh, a bit of interference.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just moving in my parents' house. They're in the woods. This is part of the problem. But so many different powerful messages that you've learned on that trip, and that is lifelong beautiful lessons that you are able to pass on to other people, like our audience today that got the chance to hear about your experience in New Orleans and all that it offered. I
Yeah.
want to thank everybody for joining me on this beautiful Sunday. Thank you, Co, for joining me today on another
Thank you.
episode of What Has Changed Your Life. See you next time.